Hello there, how's it going? This is my 16th recording of the book Atomic Habit, and so far we have been talking about chapter 8, and in this video I will continue talking about this chapter. Last time we talked about supernormal stimulus, and we explored the modern food industry and how they exploit our desire of food. And today we will talk about dopamine driven feedback loop, what dopamine is and how it affects what we do. So, in the past, as you know, this book explored the behaviorism aspect of human behavior. Our behavior changes depending on our surrounding, our environment. And now we are taking a turn on neurology and talking about dopamine, which is a neurochemical, a chemical in our brain that affects what we do. A very different idea, but very important as well. Habits are a dopamine driven feedback loop. A feedback loop is a very important idea as well. A feedback loop is essentially a system where the output becomes the next input. So what we do is determined by what we did previously. And this feedback loop is actually controlled by the dopamine, a neurochemical, a chemical in our brain. Habits are a dopamine driven feedback loop. Every behavior that is highly habit forming, taking drugs, eating junk food, playing video games, browsing social media, is associated with higher levels of dopamine. So, the idea is that anything that is extremely addictive or habit forming, as he is saying, all of those things are associated with higher levels of dopamine. The reason people get addicted to drugs, although they are extremely harmful for health, is because they release a ton of dopamine. The reason people get addicted to junk food, even though it increases their weight, make them sluggish, weak, is because it releases higher levels of dopamine. Same idea with video games. The reason video games feel so addictive compared to real sports or board games like chess is because they release dopamine. Those things are actually engineered to be addictive, so you come back for more and more and more. The same can be said for our most basic habitual behaviors like eating food, drinking water, and interacting socially. So dopamine doesn't just release on addictive things, it just releases with a very huge amount. Dopamine is also released when you perform normal everyday activity, but not in extreme amount. That's why you can't just get addicted to drinking water, for example, or interacting socially or talking with your friends. Dopamine, which is a neurochemical, as I said, plays a crucial role in many neurological processes, including motivation, learning and memory, punishment and aversion, and voluntary movement. So you don't really need to understand the other parts, but motivation is a big, big thing. The reason that some people are highly motivated to do something, let's say studying, some students love to study but others don't, is because dopamine. Students who love to study is because their dopamine is associated with the studying. They have their brain is wired in a way that they actually feel motivated to study, while others might look at study as extremely boring or a tedious task. So motivation is one huge aspect of dopamine. When it comes to habit, the key takeaway is this: dopamine is released not only when you experience pleasure, but also when you anticipate it. Gambling addicts have a dopamine spike right before they place a bet, not after they win it. Whenever you predict that an opportunity will be rewarding, your levels of dopamine spike in anticipation, and whenever dopamine rises, so does your motivation to act. So, this is a new idea. Dopamine, a chemical in our brain, the chemical that makes us feel good, that makes us come back for more, like that, like junk food, video games, and drugs. It it is not only released after we perform an action, but also before. The dopamine released before the action is what motivates us to actually take the action. As he's given an example of gambling addicts. The reason that you come back for more is because the dopamine is released before the action as well. If there was no dopamine, if there was no craving, no motivation, people won't be doing things like gambling, drugs, junk food, video games. People won't be doing that. Whenever dopamine rises, so does your motivation to act. And how does dopamine even rises? It's because of past behaviors. Once you try something that releases a lot of dopamine, it actually teaches your brain to do it more again and again and again. So once you actually repeat a behavior several times, your dopamine starts to get released even before you take the action. Very powerful idea. So for example, if I see drugs or cigarettes, I won't be motivated to participate in that, right? Because I have never tried them. But if I, for some reason, actually try them several times, my dopamine will spike just by looking at them and I will crave them. So that's why it's a very important thing to stay away from destructive habits. Okay, let's move on. It is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. It's the anticipation of reward. So if you desire something, only then you will take action. That's the idea. Interestingly, the reward system that is activated in the brain when you receive a reward is the same system that is activated when you anticipate a reward. This is one reason that anticipation of an experience can often feel better than the attainment of it. As a child, thinking about Christmas morning can be better than opening the gifts. Scientists refer to this as the difference between wanting and liking. Your brain has far more neural circuitry allocated for wanting rewards than for liking them. Very important idea, and he's again reinforcing the previous point is that it's not the thing that gets us to take action, but wanting the thing that gets us to take action. And he also gave an example of an employee who is thinking about vacation all the time, but when he actually gets a vacation, he won't feel that good as he felt when thinking about the vacation. So the idea is that you only work towards something when you want it, not because the thing is good. So for example, learning to program is a very demanding skill, but why are you not learning to program? It's not because programming is meaningless, it's because you don't want it enough. Desire is the engine that drives behavior. Every action is taken because of the anticipation that precedes it. It is the craving that leads to the response. So there must be some level of craving, even if even if your environment is surrounded by the cues. If you don't have any desire at all, you won't take action. There should be some level of desire, and the idea is that you can manufacture desire. It's not like you were born with a preset desires. You can actually manufacture desire to perform good things, and aversions to not to to avoid doing bad things. So aversion is actually the antonym of desire. Temptation bundling is a very simple idea he proposes in this chapter, and using temptation bundling you can make anything you want to do more interesting. Temptation bundling works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. In in Barnes' case, he bundled watching Netflix, the thing he wanted to do, with riding his stationary bike, the thing he needed to do. The idea is very simple, and he gives an example of a MIT student who loved watching Netflix, but he also wanted to exercise. What he did, he combined these two ideas. He will only watch Netflix while he would exercise. So, although he needed to exercise, right? Riding a stationary bike, but that was a boring task, you can say. So, he combined it with an interesting and attractive task so he could actually ride his bicycle. And we can use this idea in almost every aspect of our life to actually to think about the things we need to do. For example, reading a book. I personally read a book when I am listening to music. Actually, there are is a very good category of music. We call it lo-fi study music. You can actually go to YouTube and find these hour-long videos that you can listen to while you are studying. Very good content to make your studying more interesting. That's the idea of temptation bundling. So it's not just music, you can decide how you can make your everyday life slightly more interesting by combining things that you want to do with the things that you need to do. So that's how he explained it. He wanted to watch Netflix, but he needed to also use his stationary bike. You are more likely to find a behavior attractive if you get to do one of your favorite things at the same time. The hope is that eventually you will look forward to calling 3 clients or doing 10 burpees because it means you get to read the latest sport news or check Facebook. Doing the things you need to do means you get to do the things you want to do. Temptation bundling is one way to create a heightened version of any habit. Heightened version means interesting version. Like junk food is a more interesting version of normal food. So you can create a heightened version of any habit by connecting it with something you already want. Engineering a truly irresistible habit is a hard task, but this simple strategy can be employed to make nearly any habit more attractive than it would be otherwise. Yeah, it's a very simple approach, and you need to do a lot of homework to decide how you are going to implement this strategy in your daily life. So, for example, you like to eat cookies. You can take a pack of cookies, break it down in smaller chunks, and eat them while you are studying. So again, the idea is that if you are doing one thing that you like with the thing that you need to do, you will be far more inclined to do it, right? You will get to eat your favorite biscuits while you are studying, for example. That's the idea, temptation bundling. Let's go over the summary. The second law of behavior change is to make it attractive. Yeah, don't try to do the boring thing. Try to make it fun for yourself. See how you can make your work more fun. It could be studying, for example, exercising, reading. How can you make it more fun? The more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit forming. Exactly. See, if something is fun, although it's extremely bad for us, like drugs and junk food, we are still doing it. Isn't that crazy? Our brain loves to do things that are fun, even though if it doesn't care, even if it harms us. Very, very, very powerful idea. So if you can make things fun that you need to do, you are more likely to do it. Habits are a dopamine driven feedback loop. When dopamine rises, so does your motivation to act. The dopamine driven feedback loop, I think I didn't do a good job explaining it. The idea is that whenever your dopamine is released from an action, your brain learns it, it memorizes it. So if you take drugs a few number of times, you will crave them. That's the idea. But if you have never tried drugs, you will have no craving, no motivation, because your brain hasn't learned the value of drugs. It is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. The greater the anticipation, the greater the dopamine spike. Yeah, the more you want it, the more you are you are motivated to do it. Temptation bundling is one way to make your habits more attractive. The strategy is to pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. So, very good chapter. He explained why some things we find too attractive, what's the science behind it, and how can we actually use that science. Also, this is just the first chapter in the section. We will talk more about how things become attractive to us in the later chapters, but this is a good foundation. So this is it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.